He is a dangerous person. In fact, he is a monster. For a grown man to target me, a child, by entering my family's camper uninvited is heinous. As much as I try to suppress my thoughts, I will never be able to burn the memory of suddenly waking up to a strange man over my body in the dark while feeling excruciating pain. I felt frozen, in shock, petrified, and so hopeless at the time, not knowing what my next move would be as I feared for my life.
We are about to watch a Connecticut parole hearing of a monster. And it's not just the monster that we're going to see here, but we're going to see the clear injustice brought by the weak DA, the DA that simply does not care about children. Anyways, I'll unpack it with the details at the end.
He is serving a sentence of 15 years, execution suspended after 6 years, with 10 months of probation to follow for illegal sexual contact.
He is a dangerous person. In fact, he is a monster. For a grown man to target me, a child, by entering my family's camper uninvited is heinous. As much as I try to suppress my thoughts, I will never be able to burn the memory of suddenly waking up to a strange man over my body in the dark while feeling excruciating pain. I felt frozen, in shock, petrified, and so hopeless at the time, not knowing what my next move would be as I feared for my life.
10 years.
Awarded at Osborne first.
10 years probation. Yes.
I thought they was leaving, and Martin was coming in, and he was going out. So it had to been somewhere around
10 years probation to follow for illegal sexual contact. As of today, records reflect a parole eligibility date of February 1st, 2025 at 50%. There is victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shows the offender has completed the following programs: Voices, short-term sex treatment program, and he is a server on a cart at the facility, utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system. The offender overall score on the SRT falls within the moderate range of risk for recidivism. Utilizing the static 99R, the offender overall score for sexual offense recidivism falls within the moderate to high range for Mr. Boucher. Mr. Boucher, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole.
They wanted
You may begin.
I put together a little letter. I was wondering if it would be okay to read that.
Yes, please.
All right.
I have a profile at Oregon. I have an inmate profile separation.
Good morning, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to stand before you this morning. First and foremost, I'd like to take a moment to apologize to my victim, her family, and everyone else that I have caused harm to directly and indirectly because of my actions. I know that no words I say will heal the pain or fix the past, but with my entire heart and soul, I truly am sorry. Going forward, I plan on utilizing all of the tools that I have learned in here to make sure that something like this never happens again. As a child who grew up in a broken home with addict parents, after enduring a tragic car accident at 16, I too became an addict. And from 16 to 24, I struggled with my addiction, severe trauma, depression, and anxiety. My alcohol use caused me to lack judgment, make irrational decisions, and be irresponsible. And so upon being, yes, ma'am.
Could you slow down just a little bit? You're speaking very rapidly and it's a little hard to, absorb everything you're saying.
I'm sorry.
Authorities.
You want me to just continue where I'm at?
That they were gonna transfer me back out on.
After enduring a tragic car accident at 16, I too became an addict. And from 16 to 24, I struggled with my addiction, severe trauma, depression, and anxiety. My alcohol use caused me to lack judgment, make irrational decisions, and be irresponsible. And so upon being incarcerated, I decided to make some serious changes in my life. I decided to make sure that I would take on any and all programs that I could find. Although I was able to take in complete Tier 2 immediately, It took me over a year and a half of nonstop writing, many denials, and jumping through hoops, even hiring my mental health score to start getting programs that were beneficial. I completed both of the programs, Voices and Short Track, that were placed on my OAB, but was denied for good intentions, bad choices, and anger management because they were not placed on my OAP at that time. Determined to do more, mental health helped me get into a creative expressions class where I learned how to redirect any negative emotions into productive talents like art, poetry, and music. After that program, I decided to reach out to other outlets and found a correspondence course, writing back and forth with a mentor to dive deeper into my spirituality, learning meditation, and integrating a more righteous way of living. I also came across a very beneficial program called Hustle 2.0, which was a 300-page workbook that taught me how to change my criminal thinking and behaviors, taking responsibility, acknowledging the impact of my actions to my victims, anger management, securing employment, and even focused on reintegration back into the community. Last but not least, I was accepted into and successfully completed a second chance college course called Introduction to Mental Health, where I learned the causes of mental health, recognizing, stepping in, and trying to make changes among the community to change the societal factors that lead to the mental health and suicide crisis, earning my 7th certificate so far. If granted parole, I plan on working with both my parole officer and social worker to be able to continue taking programs and classes in the community and remain a productive member of society. I plan on obtaining full-time employment and continuing being an active member of recovery, going to meetings, finding a sponsor, and doing the step work. I have an incredible support network made up of family, friends, coworkers, and other active members of sobriety who's cheering on my success. Although I understand that no amount of time spent behind bars will feel like enough for my victim, I have spent the last 7 years trying to pick up the pieces for the rest, pick up the pieces, and for the rest of my life, I will struggle to do so because of my actions. I have 2 daughters at home who need me, who are also struggling without me in their lives because they are too young to understand why I'm not home for Christmas or their birthdays. And they too are now victims because of my actions. Taking that into consideration, I just again like to thank you for the opportunity today, and I don't respect any decision that is made. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Boucher, thank you for taking the time to write out your thoughts. Covered a lot of ground in that statement, so that's very helpful. We're going to take turns asking questions of you based on the documents that were available to us. Then we will hear from the Office of Victim Services. The 3 of us will then discuss your situation and make a decision. So I'll begin with the questions. You had a sentence modification hearing yesterday?
Yes, ma'am.
What was the outcome? Do you know?
I was denied.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
So when did you become incarcerated for this offense?
I got sentenced on September 9th of 2022. I originally got arrested back in 2017, but I bonded out after 8 months.
Okay. So the 7-year period that you're referring to,
It's
changing your criminal thinking and all of that is from the date of the crime. Is that?
yes,
Okay.
That transfer
So
happened.
you've been inside just now 2 years of the
Yes.
7.
yes, ma'am.
And awarded at Oregon.
So
Oregon at the time.
you have a 15-year sentence when you go out and begin probation. You have 9 years of this sentence over your head. You violate probation as you have many times in the past. You could be made to serve those 9 years in prison. You have 10 years ahead of you on the state sex offender registry. I trust you're aware of that.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have a standing criminal protective order against you until the year 2099.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
can you tell me what the protective order means?
The protective order means that I may not have any contact directly or third party or try to contact my victim in this case or go anywhere within a certain amount of distance to
Okay.
her or home.
And that includes through social media.
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure you're fully aware of the terms of that order. So, you were doing pretty well during this 2-year period without a DR, and then August. Had you already been interviewed by Officer Shamroy when you got this ticket?
So to be completely honest, it was the day of, and I was kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place. We recently got a new captain, and the captain wanted all tiermen put together. I got put into a cell with somebody that I didn't know. That individual had been down his entire life, and he had nothing to lose. Upon them searching our cell, they found that bag of Pruno, and if nobody owned up to it, we were both going to SEG. Him not taking responsibility, he just started packing his stuff and getting ready to go to SEG. And I thought that I would pick the path of less resistance. And so I just owned it so that I didn't have to go to SEG.
So by taking responsibility for the possession of Pruno, you wouldn't face segregation.
Yes, ma'am.
But your position with us here today is you didn't have anything to do with the Pruno?
And I knew it was there, and I take responsibility for knowing that it was in my cell. But if it was mine, I would sit here and I would wholeheartedly tell you that it was mine. I have no problem. I'm just telling you exactly how it happened.
Did you drink any of it?
No, ma'am. I've been in recovery for a few years now, and I
Just
plan
sell
on-
it?
No, ma'am. I don't partake in any of that behind these walls. I go to AA once a week, and I'm serious about my sobriety.
I didn't have one of these.
I read about the extent of your substance use out in the community, the role it played in the crime that you committed, and see that you have a drug score of 5, which is the highest possible. It was concerning to me that you were only afforded the Tier 2 program, and not the higher level Tier 4 for someone with the variety of substances that you were abusing and over the period of time as you explained today. So you committed this crime at age 25.
Yes, ma'am.
And your opening statement, you indicated that you were using and addicted to the age of 24. Help me reconcile that difference.
I was addicted to opiates and painkillers, and then I got addicted to alcohol, so I could have said 25. I should have said 25.
And when's the last time you did treatment out in the community?
Or have changed.
Like an inpatient program?
You understand the grievance process in
And or outpatient?
Again,
Before this arrest.
2016?
2016. Yeah, 2016.
Yeah, you were at SCAD.
Yep.
But yet still using, still drinking. Why do you think that program wasn't sufficient? Or was it you just not being ready?
I think it was just me not being ready.
Have you learned through the programs and perhaps some of the meetings you've attended inside what was behind your addiction to substances? I know that you had an accident and you were prescribed medication, but
generally,
do you understand, were you able to unpack what was party to your addiction?
Yes, ma'am. A lot of it stems from childhood trauma and growing up in a broken home. And I had to start focusing on the root of them issues and the issues deep down inside of me to be able to start a successful recovery.
You mentioned step work. Have you been doing that inside?
I have.
What happens when you get to step 12?
You start over again and you start back from one.
It could mean.
And how far have you gotten in the steps?
I am currently on the third step.
Like generally, or like.
First go round?
Yes, ma'am.
And how is it that you're doing step work?
There is a correspondence course with, yes, with other peers and sponsors, and that's how I've been working on it. And then every week that I go to AA, I go over it with my speaker who comes in.
And were you ever active in AA or NA when you were in the community?
I was active in AA and NA, but I never gained a sponsor and I never worked the steps. And I believe that's why it didn't work for me in the past.
Or like you said, you weren't ready.
That too, yeah.
So do you understand that there are different kinds of meetings that you can go to? There's
Yes,
all male meetings, there are speaker meetings, there are step meetings.
yes, ma'am. I plan on
Okay.
utilizing all of them.
Uh-huh. Have you heard the expression 90 and 90?
Yes, ma'am. 90 meetings in 90 days. I don't plan on stopping there.
Right. But it's a goal to set for yourself.
Absolutely.
So help me out. I'm a little bit confused. There's a lot of conflicting information between different documents. So when you completed the short-term problem sexual behavior program, you were sponsoring to your best friend's dad's house. And your aunt in Putnam sent us a letter saying she was sponsoring you. And when you met with the parole officer, you wanted to go to your girlfriend's in New Haven.
New Hampshire.
Hampshire, okay.
So I originally planned on going to my best friend and his father's house back when I was in treatment. They, at that time.
Why don't you just tell me what your plan is now?
My plan is to go back to New Hampshire if I am allowed.
And this is just a girlfriend?
Yes, it's my kid's mother and girlfriend.
And I both.
And is she aware that her address will have to be on their state sex offender registry?
Yes, ma'am.
And your daughters live with her?
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
I'm not sure that will work necessarily because you're certainly, at least initially, going to be stipulated to no contact with minors given the nature of your offense.
They'll just say this matter has.
So what's your work plan for New Hampshire?
My work plan is to speak with my old employer and try to get my old job back that I had before I came in here.
Scrap metal?
Scrap metal, yes, ma'am.
Uh-huh. And have you spoken to that person since you've been inside?
I have not. I will not be able to speak to him until I touch down.
Make requests.
So, not really a robust release plan with respect to, supporting yourself and your family. So you've been working, are you in the kitchen now or the laundry?
I am, well, the food comes to the unit, so I just serve the food at the unit.
And do you have your high school diploma?
I have my GED, yes, ma'am.
I just submitted. They filed.
Has anybody else prevented you from submitting?
No.
So, you appropriately began your opening statement with an apology. And over the course of the different documents, the pre-sentence investigation, the police report, the evaluation for problem sexual behavior, some of the facts seem to shift with respect to the crime that you committed. What exactly are you apologizing for?
I'm apologizing for the entire situation. I'm apologizing for breaking parole and being there that night and drinking. I'm apologizing to the victim that me and her had a sexual encounter. And the pain that it caused, and I'm really apologizing for everything.
Well, I'm going to need to unpack sexual encounter with you. Can you define for me what consent means?
Consent means that you agree to have sexual intercourse with somebody, and if they change their mind in the middle of it, then you have to stop. If you continue, then that would not be consensual.
So in this case, you delivered alcohol to the victim and her friends, knowing that they were minors. Why'd you do that?
A violation.
It was a stupid decision, and we were all hanging out, and some of the friends were 19 and 20, and they were my little brother's friends, and I just tried to be the cool big brother and buy the alcohol, and it was a dumb decision, and I really just don't have an excuse for it. It was really stupid.
And you blame your behavior on being intoxicated?
Yes, ma'am. I blame my behavior on being intoxicated and using drugs and not being responsible.
I read lack of judgment.
Yes, ma'am.
So the account that we read was that the victim was asleep and woke up to find you on top of her trying to penetrate her. Are you aware of that account?
I am aware that that is an account, yes.
So it's a little bit hard to get consent verbally out of somebody who's asleep or passed out.
There's many mitigating circumstances that fact check many different things and different accounts of what actually happened.
I read that you described it as an accident.
Yes, ma'am.
At one point claimed you didn't know her age. And then at another point, you said she told you she was 19.
Yes, ma'am.
You, on the sex offender evaluation from February of this year, said that she didn't tell you to stop. And in the police report, it's pretty clear she was in pain and asking you to stop, and your response to her was, "Let me finish." Does any of that ring a bell?
No, ma'am. That is the first time I'm hearing that.
Well, by our accounts, the victim in this crime was a virgin, and the indications from the medical evaluation, which is what brought her to seek help and report, was that she had a tampon inside, and through your actions, suffered great pain as that was forced further up inside her. And it seems to me if this was a consensual act, she probably would have taken responsibility to have removed that in order to engage with you. So that's where the story kind of goes south, sir. So
I understand.
yeah, okay. So having taken the Voices program, I'm interested in hearing from you what impact you think your choice to violate this 15-year-old might have caused in her life.
I'm sure it caused tremendous emotional and physical and mental problems that she will endure for years. I would like to just state that without trying to be disrespectful in any way, there is a lot more facts that happened that night. And
Well, here's the issue, Mr. Boucher, for me, is that if you're telling the truth, it's one story and it doesn't change. But your accounts over the course of the investigation and pre-sentence, and now as you're seeking parole release, have varied tremendously. And that's a red flag to me that there's some deception going on, that you maybe aren't really fully responsible in taking account for the harm in your choice to rape a 15-year-old when you were 25 and she was passed out, and you delivered alcohol as a means to perpetrate the crime. That's my take on everything that I've read and our conversation thus far. But I'll listen as you talk to my colleagues, and perhaps I'll learn something more. But, the account that we have is entirely credible. And it hasn't varied as yours has. So thank you for talking with me. And I'm going to turn the opportunity over to my colleague, panel member Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I share the same concerns. There has been some deviation in the story, basically. But yeah, just get away from that. What you took your short-term sex treatment. What did you get from that? What have you learned from that?
oh, I learned a lot from that program in particular. I learned that basically what I was saying with her, that, the whole consensual thing, and I'm not sure what I'm allowed to sit here and say or how much I'm allowed to go into. And that's the only reason I'm holding back a little bit, because I don't want to bring any disrespect to the victim.
Well, we've read the transcripts and the information in the transcripts, and we know there's been some different stories. I think we know that already because we've read all the information. You don't have to go into any of that. So the concern for us, I think, is really, your position in all of this and where you're at this particular point in time. So you don't have to go into all of that. I mean, we've read all that information. I'm more concerned with what have you learned from what you've gotten that makes you a different person coming on the outside. I mean, because you've had situations that have not worked out for you in the past.
I've learned
Even when you were arrested for this, you had a couple of charges that came up in New Hampshire after this, correct?
Correct.
You know what I mean? So you're talking about learning about your criminality and stuff, and yet you had a situation in New Hampshire where you got arrested. So, I want to know, what makes you the person for us to say, oh yeah, it's good to be able for us to really look at releasing him today. What are those things?
I learned the root to all of my bad decision making is drugs and since having kids of my own, I've tried to put my best foot forward and correct all of the mistakes that I've made in the past and break the cycle of addiction. Because I know where it leads. And I just learned the tools to do so.
Well, your addiction didn't start now, so I'm sure you thought about this in the past as well, right? And you knew that this was already a problem. For you, you didn't just come to this now. This was a problem. What have you been doing to arrange your relapse work when released? And I understand that you talked about wanting to do an AA sponsor, but have you really looked into that and done the work to the beginning work to get that done before you come out? Because that's not what I heard.
Yes, sir.
You have a sponsor now on the outside.
No, and I can't get
Have
one
you
until I
have you been
go.
involved? Have you been involved with CCAR? You had a chance to connect with CCAR to set
No,
up a
sir.
recovery network for yourself.
No, sir. I didn't
So
know that I could.
that's the work that I'm talking about.
I didn't know that I could reach out from in here. I thought that was something that I had to establish once I was home.
I think the beginning work needs to be done while you're there, so you're set up when you come out and you're not struggling to set it up while you're already out there. Even in terms of the types of that you're thinking about even getting involved with, those are the things you need to start investigating now to prepare to coming on the outside. Not to do it once you get out, because you got the stresses of being on the outside and the challenges of relationships on the outside and all of those other challenges that you're going to have to deal with and face at that point. So. And I'm not hearing that, and I'm concerned about that because I'm not hearing that from you at all. And that's not to take away from the work that you've done. I don't want to take away from the work that you've done, but that concerns me.
I understand.
I don't have a lot of questions because my colleague did a wonderful job of asking you the questions that I've felt kind of answered a lot of what I needed to know. But that's a really general concern that I have. And again, I've heard, the things that you have been doing. Anyway, I don't really have any additional questions at this point, Madam Chair. Thank you for listening, and talking to me and answering the questions I did have.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Morning, Mr. Boucher.
Good morning, sir.
Just a couple of thoughts and a little bit of discussion. Just heard my colleagues' concerns. I think part of it is the substance use program that you took was in 2018, right?
Yes, sir. After coming in from discharge.
Yep. And you haven't really been connected that much with addiction services other than going to meetings?
Other than going to meetings, I've been trying, and I have a whole folder here of.
That's okay. You don't have to prove anything to me.
I've been.
You haven't had that relationship?
No, sir.
Okay. And in terms of recovery coaching, because that's going to be critical when you leave, right? It's a orange and yellow icon on your iPad. Tablet.
Oh, yeah.
Right. That says CCAR on it. And you can begin to establish a relationship with a recovery coach that way.
We don't have that on our tablet.
It's there. It's there.
It's called CCAR.
CCAR. I promise it's there. I was told by Addiction Services, DOC, that it's there and you can request the recovery coach through that.
In this facility, it's not. And if I had my doubt, I would show you. It's absolutely not.
Okay. Well, then maybe you didn't find it and you want to ask for some support in how to do that, right?
Yes.
Because you're on the road with going to meetings and having a sponsor. When you're talking about recovery, I didn't hear much stuff that was manufactured. Coming from somebody who actually understands a little bit, right?
Yes, sir.
But a sponsor is in one lane and a recovery coach is in another and a clinician is in another, right?
Yes,
And the support you need is when you get back into the community. And
Yes,
it's
sir.
not in the sponsor's lane to do that stuff, but it is in a recovery coach's lane. Okay,
I didn't know anything about that, but now that I do know, I will definitely look into that.
so that's one piece. You know, the other thing is that in order to get ahead, or to make progress, when it comes to programming and mental health group or anything like that, you have to be an active participant. So when I read your evaluation, one of the things that it said, or actually a couple of things that it said, was excellent contributor. I mean, and we're seeing that today. You're attentive, you're engaged. That's a piece of what's going on. That you like to engage with peers, right?
Yes, sir.
That's the road to recovery, right?
Yes, sir.
Right? Yeah. So you have to get out there, and the things here that might be your risk factors, a lot of them with good, solid pro-social relationships, you can get there, right?
Absolutely.
So it's about establishing those. So I wanted to talk through those couple of things. I did have concern when you identified, or at least in the interview, you said that you didn't really see any high risk situations. And it's like, as long as you're taking care of it today, and today is every day, might not be high risk situations. But when they come, you need to know what to do with them.
Correct.
Regardless of what it is, whether it's this instant offense or whatever it is in life, you need to know what to do with it.
Correct.
So that's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Pohl. And Mr. Boucher, I have one additional question for you. You've struggled in the past with probation and have a few violations of probation. Why do you think that has been a problem for you?
I think I was just still young and responsible and not ready to change. And it took this serious situation and having kids myself to seriously crack down and say something has to give.
Do you understand the difference between probation and parole?
A little bit, yes, ma'am.
So just so you know, parole officers have arrest powers in our state.
Yes,
So, were you to be granted, you violate parole, and they come and arrest you when you go back to the facility, it's not the lengthy process that probation has to go through with documenting your missed appointments and dirty urines and missed programs, and then putting it together in a warrant for the judge to sign, and then they come looking for you.
No, I understand that.
Okay. That's needed to be said since you haven't yet been on parole. Okay, so at this point, we're turning the hearing over to the Office of Victim Services, and we ask Mr. Boucher that you not speak at this time. Mr. Jesus?
Good morning, board members. I do have two statements, one from the victim's mother and one from the victim herself. I am the victim's mother. On June 24th, 2017, we were attending an overnight memorial event at the Central Cycle Club in Plainfield, Connecticut. My daughter was 14 years old a few weeks before. My daughter did not know the defendant and never spoke to him before. I was there the whole day and never saw them ever interact. During the night, the defendant entered our camper where my daughter was sleeping and sexually assaulted her. She pled for him to stop as he was hurting her, and he continued to rape her. She was scared for her life, not knowing if he was going to kill her. She knew he was a convicted felon and had just been released from prison and was on parole. She was on her menstrual cycle, and he pushed her tampon up inside of her, causing damage that was seen with the scope procedure that the gynecologist performed on her during the sexual assault exam. When we went to Day Kimball Hospital to her pediatrician, they could not remove the tampon because it was so far up inside her. They had to go next door and have the gynecologist and several nurses assist in removing the tampon. They used an instrument to open her up to remove it. There were already signs of an infection, and she had to take medication after it was removed. The doctor said that this could have endangered her with life-threatening toxic shock syndrome. Her condition was extremely bad, and it would have went into her bloodstream and killed her. We don't know currently if she'll have issues with bearing children in the future. My daughter and our family's life has changed forever due to this sexual assault. My children were championship motocross riders, and we enjoyed the sport as a family. We never returned to the track as a family again. The sport we once loved became a nightmare to us. My daughter never got on a dirt bike again. She dropped out of all sports and distanced herself from all her friends. She was a softball pitcher, and her team won the championship. She also played soccer and was in track. She had so many close friends and was very well liked. This all ended after the attack. She became extremely depressed and had a hard time functioning in life. Not a day goes by that this attack doesn't cross her mind, and she continues to get triggers that will ruin any positive in her life. She had become very self-conscious, which caused self-harming with being anorexic and bulimic. This attack happened during an age where she was going through puberty and she was forming her personality. I often wonder if she would be a different person if she wasn't sexually assaulted. She hadn't even dated yet. She never had a boyfriend. She will never be able to enjoy making love as she continues to get flashbacks of being attacked. Shane Boucher needs to be held accountable for his actions. He has a long history of arrests and is a convicted felon. It is obvious that he has not learned from his past record, and each arrest becomes worse than the prior arrest. When he was released from prison on an early release and would not have been there that day if he had served his full sentence. After he was sent back to prison, he once again was granted early release, even after he raped my daughter. He deserved the maximum sentence. He caused my daughter to have a life sentence of pain and fear. He has ruined her life. This should have went to trial, as he didn't deserve a plea deal. But this had tortured us for over 5 years, and we agreed to the plea deal so we can finally get justice for what was done to my daughter and our family. Now we are waiting to hear the results of his sentence modification. After the attack, Shane messaged my daughter, and I had a screenshot of it. This is the exact words from the message from him. Quote, "Please listen to me for a minute. There is no excuse for it. I fucked up, excuse my language, worse than I have ever in my life. I know you barely know me, but that's not who I am. Not the monster that you think I am. Like, there are no words I can even say to you. Like, I literally thought about hanging it up because of how guilty and how bad I felt about it. Plain and simple, I fucked up, excuse my language. And even though it probably means nothing at all, I am sorry. I want to take it all back. I really do. more than you can ever imagine. I know you absolutely hate me, but I don't know what I can do to make this any better or change it or something, end quote. This was only an attempt to silence her and cover up what he did to her. We want him to pay for what he did so that he doesn't do this to anyone else. The damage has already been done to her, but she hopes she can save someone else. Please, I ask that you show no mercy to Shane Boucher with his sentence request. We strongly object. He showed no mercy to my daughter and has ruined her life. We also want the court to know, again, that he was on parole and early release when this incident happened, and then awaiting for sentencing, he got arrested in another state for a violent crime. He even still, with all these appeals, continues to cause more pain to my daughter, who will not be known as the star athlete or the high honor student, but as the girl that was raped. He agreed to a sentence and had we thought that he could just simply ask to get that changed, we would have waited longer and pushed for a trial, as we didn't feel a plea deal was enough. We asked the courts not to change things simply because it is his right to ask. Thank you. I will now read the victim statement. Please bear with me, as this is the most difficult subject for me to discuss. This involves the most vulnerable time in my life. I have suppressed my feelings, thoughts, and fears for many years now on this matter. No amount of time the defendant serves will be enough in my eyes. The defendant deserves a longer time to serve, not less. He is a dangerous person. In fact, he is a monster. For a grown man to target me, a child, by entering my family's camper uninvited is heinous. As much as I try to suppress my thoughts, I will never be able to burn the memory of suddenly waking up to a strange man over my body in the dark while feeling excruciating pain. I felt frozen, in shock, petrified, and so hopeless at the time, not knowing what my next move would be, as I feared for my life. When I had laid my head to rest that night alone, nothing in the world could have prepared me for what I was going to be waking up to. I had just completed my first year of high school, 14 years old, only a few weeks prior. This is a time in my life where I'm learning, growing, and developing. A time where I'm finding myself focusing on school, sports, family, and motocross. This should have never been, this should have never have been a time where this should have never have been a time where an already previously convicted felon violates me and shreds my life into pieces. The defendant has taken away my worth, my privacy, my safety, my intimacy, and my family endeavors at a racetrack forever. After the attack, I needed to seek medical attention since I was on my period when the defendant raped me. I remember pleading and crying with my legs in holsters as the doctors had to insert yet another foreign object in me to remove the tampon lodged in my cervix. This was a serious matter, as I was at a high risk of a life-threatening toxic shock syndrome. I remember sitting on the table in the office, petrified, while the doctors were assessing my injuries after the most traumatic occurrence in my life. Everything that was done to me makes me sick to my stomach to this day. My body has never felt so violated before, as I was not sexually active prior to my attack or ever exposed to this extent. Over the years, I have been struggling with daily attributes as a person. I have formed an unhealthy relationship with my basic needs. I am now 22 years old and I struggle to present myself to gynecologists or even regular doctor appointments. I have been rescheduling my first pap smear appointment for months now. This could be detrimental to my health, especially with my family's medical history. The issue I have is I hate being touched or exposed to anyone, making these matters almost impossible. I have created such a thick barrier around my mind, body, and soul as a way to protect myself, not knowing the immense negative effects it would have on me. I am so far disassociated as an individual that it leads me to a very depressed mindset and has ruined many relationships for me. My mental and physical health has depreciated greatly since I was assaulted. A couple of months after the incident, I became bulimic, causing me to lose my period for around 4 months. I have never felt one with my body since, as it is a reminder of the violation it has been through. This matter has impacted my past, my present, and my future. Ever since I was a little girl, I have always dreamt of starting my own family one day. Now I stand here today not knowing if that is obtainable. Not only because I have no clue the state of my fertility at this point, as my body has been through so much at such a young age, but also because I don't know if I am willing to bring life into this world amongst any possible predators, such as the defendant. I live with so many day-to-day fears that it has led me to be excessively codependent and introverted. I drowned myself in my work with little to no social interactions besides being with my family, since that is when I feel the safest. My life goals have been severely derailed since I was raped. All the AP classes and excellent grades I worked for in school have gone to waste, as my attack led to the decision of college no longer being plausible for me. I no longer continued with my endeavors in motocross, soccer, track, softball, or any other extracurriculars. I often must remind myself to not ponder who I would have been or what I could have achieved at this point in my life if this had never happened to me. It's not healthy. It's not a healthy outtake for me to do since it's never been my reality. What Shane Boucher did to me on June 24th, 2017 is my reality that I have no other choice but to take to my grave. The memories of that attack and anything affiliated with it has consumed me for years now. By me being a voice heard today with my words, I earnestly hope I can protect others from enduring what I have. The defendant has taken so much from my family and me. I would like reassurance that what happened to me will never happen to another child. Since I will never get back what was taken from me, I ask you to take my statement into consideration. And no, I strongly object to the request for a sentence modification, and I ask you to as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. DeJesus, and thank you to the victim and her mother for their powerful statements. So at this point in the hearing, we're going to deliberate. Please don't interrupt, Mr. Boucher.
Okay.
So, this is hard to imagine more serious set of circumstances. Mr. Boucher does have supervision to follow in the form of probation and the sex offender registry. And the court did grant a standing criminal protective order. While his behavior has been almost without issue, and he has taken the programs on his OAP. I believe a 6-year sentence to serve for a crime that has caused so much damage and harm remains reasonable. So my vote will be to deny discretionary parole to Mr. Boucher. Mr. Rodriguez.
They have to be.
As I shared with Mr. Boucher, I struggled earlier with his just not, for me, not being prepared with the extensive addiction history that he has, and he's going to be facing a lot of challenges on the outside if he were to be released. The nature of this offense and victim's impact statement for me right now, I'm also not in favor of voting to parole today as well, and hope that he, uses his time to at least connect with his addiction services on the inside and begin to really prepare himself for really coming out on the outside.
To be successful
for all.
Mr. Paul.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So when we're looking at criminal history here, there's a lot of drug-related offenses. There's interfering, resisting, two, one in Connecticut, one in New Hampshire. Case. Nothing that rises to this level. You can't get much further above this level. And my concern is with the first case, here we're looking at 10 years of probation. Follow. However, parole, especially with some of the opportunities that for housing that are available, for me would be a choice that I would make, not today, but I'm just concerned, always concerned, and it's a struggle to hear the victim and to really hear the impact on a person, with an offender that's before us here, and not saying probation isn't a viable or a good form of supervision. It's not special management unit that parole offers.
Yeah, once you're charged.
So I struggle, but I also heard what you and Board Member Rodriguez said. For me, it's like I understand that in this case, I'd be
Testimony of her saying.
In the minority if I looked to go anywhere different than this, anywhere different than you already stated. But I do have significant concerns when we release offenders, especially that could be managed by SMU, which is highly trained when it comes to sex offenders. Not to this case. So I will reluctantly support this denial.
Okay. Thank you for those thoughtful comments. It isn't without pause.
Right.
But I'm deferring to the wishes of the victim and the victim's family, because the degree to which they were able to articulate the harm and the lasting impact, it was profound for me. So I have nature, circumstance, injury and impact, inadequate release plan, and inadequate evidence of offender change. You okay with those? All right. So in the matter of Shane Boucher, inmate number 374533, there's a motion to deny parole for the following reasons: the nature and circumstance of your offense, the injury and impact caused to the victim and the victim's family, your inadequate release plan, and inadequate evidence of offender change. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries, parole is denied.
This concludes the hearing for Shane Boucher, 347533. You'll receive all this in writing, Mr. Boucher. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to start by just talking about the insanity and injustice of this entire process, this entire system, and the weak DA. And frankly, I think that they would have granted if the victims didn't leave a statement, because this parole board can be feckle like that. Especially, you even saw there that Paul was like, it seemed like on the verge of granting, almost talking himself into it. Absolute insanity. The guy at his parole hearing is still blaming a 15-year-old girl that he sexually assaulted. You can hear it. He wanted to, he was trying, oh, it's not what it seems. It's, it's, I don't want to put down the victim or say anything about, and I mean, I wish they would have let him speak just so that he could have shown the world how his thought process works, like how he would have gone in there and victim blamed even more. It was coming, and it's just insanity. He breaks into their family's camper while they're there for a motocross sport and sexually assaults her. We heard the facts of it, and he was out on parole for a crime already. And when they got him for this, which, can you believe that the process took 5 years for no reason, except because it's a weak DA? So says that the Plainfield man was charged with sexual assault stemming from the incident that happened in July. So it took all the way from September, right? Sorry, for August, September. So it took 2 months. Okay, whatever. Those things can happen for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know why they couldn't have charged him the next day. But Shane of Plainfield was already incarcerated on an unrelated charge and was arrested in Superior Court and charged with sexual assault, risk of injury to a child. So this is a man who is out on parole, commits this offense, was already arrested for committing another offense, and the DA, for some reason, waits 5 years to prosecute, making this family believe that they just have to get it over with, and gives them a plea deal. A plea deal that makes no sense at all. A maximum sentence of 6 years. He's getting out in 2028, 1/31/2028. He only has to register for 10 years. Here you have a victim that was willing to get on the stand. They stated they only took the plea deal because of how long it had taken, and they just wanted to just wrap this part of their life up. They have the text messages from him. They have everything that you need to lock him up via a jury trial. But they don't. They do nothing because they're pathetic. And now he will be walking the streets in 4 years. And you can hear what they're doing. They're putting the family through this. And he's even applying for sentencing modifications. It's insane. Richard found a Facebook post from the September 9th, 2022 is when it's posted. A Central Valley man who had been arrested back in September of 2017, okay, was finally sentenced. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison, says the state's attorney office. Shane, who was 25 years old and already a convicted felon at the time of his arrest nearly 5 years ago, was sentenced to 15 years, but it was suspended after 6. 10 years of probation, and you will spend 10 years on the sex registry, because we all know that, I guess at the age of, 40, 48, 49, you no longer, no longer a risk. That's obvious, to all of us. Sheeple. As reported, Boucher pleaded guilty this past July to one felony count of illegal sexual contact with the victim. And that's the deal they give him. I mean, he does full-on sexual assault of a minor, and they give him one felony count of illegal contact. How is that the deal? Like, these DAs are so pathetic. They're holding all the cards. They are in the position where they cannot lose, and they give a deal like this. That's just all you need to know about these pathetic DAs. Boucher has been arrested related by this incident following a 2-month investigation while he was already incarcerated on another charge. And you hear what they're saying? He was arrested on a 2-month incarceration, but it took 5 years. A 2 months investigation, but and what 2-month investigation? You don't need 2 months to investigate something. It means that they assigned it to a detective who could have done everything in a day or 2 days, but no, they took 2 months because whatever, they got a lot on their plate, whatever the reasons are. I'm not going to bash the detectives, police so much, because from all accounts, they seem to do a great job for the most part on this stuff. It's the DAs and the judges that afterwards that are completely dropping the ball, and it just, I can't. I know I'm a broken record. I think we all feel this way, but it's evil, and I've seen DAs get interviewed about this kind of stuff, and I just so often, I don't see them hold up to it. I so often see them, they do gaslighting. They'll say, well, things are complicated in our system, and we have so much on our plate. As a matter of fact, if everyone were to go to court, the system would fail because we have 3,000 cases. And yeah, that's right. But you got to pick and choose what's important. And I know that you're picking cases that are possession with intent to distribute, or maybe a white collar crime, or a politically motivated crime, or just a crime that will get you a lot of attention. You're not picking the cases that are important of protecting your society. You got to pick and choose the right ones, and pick and choose the ones that are easy. This was not a difficult case to win. You have the report, you have the doctor's stuff, you have the text messages. That's all you need. It would have been a 1-day trial. So, what's crazy? Reading the comments on this Facebook post. Here's one person. Can you imagine that someone wrote this? Regardless of what the public says, unless you know him personally and have witnessed this upfront and personal, I really don't think you have room to comment on the case. Do I agree with his actions? Absolutely not. But this is only one side. And the truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, the judge is the one who sees the sentence that's fit. It's kind of amusing sitting here watching people who think they have law degrees make accusations and comments and state their opinions on people they have absolutely no idea who they are. Wow, you're brilliant. Brilliant keyboard warrior over there. Unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. Most of the other comments make sense. Why even have a legal sentence if it's automatically cut more than 60% every time? And that's true. I mean, this maybe have a little more investment in the people we spend money on to incarcerate. Yeah. I'm paying more tax if it removes the useless. I'm not only paying if the tax system is broken. It took 5 years to sentence him, and he got 6! Explanation point. Yeah, that's a comment I can relate to. Full sentence for predators of children and elders. Enough of letting them off with half their sentence. Yeah, I agree. This is justice. Wow! Explanation point, explanation point. So most agree with how we feel. Most agree with how we feel. And I can you imagine that you even get parole eligibility after 50%? His other arrests are 2014 possession of narcotics, where he got 3 years probation. Then he has violation of probation, sentenced to 2 years jail. Then he has failure to appear in 2016. Then he has interference with an officer in 2015. Sentenced to 90 days jail. Arrested on 2017 for this act. You know, it was interesting about what he was talking about with the Pruno. I almost forgot about it. He's this is the one thing, everything he said, I didn't believe a word, but this is one thing I might have believed him. He says that he was bunked with someone who's serving a life sentence. Imagine being a sex offender, serving a 6-year sentence, bunked with someone serving life. I hear these stories. It's usually not a good situation for this person serving 6. And he's claiming that it's the other person's stuff. But I might have believed him. It might be possible that that's true. And so he just took it because not wanting to go to SEG. And easy for me to say, never being in SEG, but at the same time, you just can't believe a word he's saying. It's kind of funny though. I almost feel like the CEOs set him up for that in some way or another. But he gets that right up. Could you imagine they might have even paroled him while he has a write-up for possession of illegal substance, a Pruno, while he's in prison? So yeah, this is it. This is the our broken justice system. You hear from the family, you hear from her. She just seemed like she had the world was her oyster. She's just you, and then this monster creeps into her room and does this. And the system fails, completely fails. So he's going to get out no matter what, and his full term date, which is coming right up, a couple of years, if you can believe it. And thank you, Richard, for providing the information. With that, I'll let you go.